Good afternoon and welcome back to Review Morgue.
Yoo-hoo! We are here again. It's
Yes,
that time.
on a very, very hot, humid summer day
Tennessee
in
Day.
July.
Yeah.
And this is our last episode of Review Morgue for season 4, as Jeanie just reminded me.
Dun, dun, dun. And of course, we chose something that was not really in our timeline because it's not an adaptation. It's
Right.
more along a biopic of
Mhm.
Edgar Allan Poe. Because one things that we always talk about is the loves of Edgar Allan Poe.
Yes, the death of a beautiful woman is the most, I forgot the rest of it off the
Yes.
top of my head.
Don't ask me.
Yeah,
I'm not going to remember
most
it.
it's like the most tragic thing in the world. It's something like that. Anyway,
Yeah, something like that.
yes, so The Loves of Edgar Allan Poe, 1942. And
Hmm.
it was about an hour and 7 minutes, put out by 20th Century Fox, produced by Brian Fay, and directed by Harry Lockman. Harry Lockman did a little bit of some noir back in the day, also Laurel and Hardy, and some Charlie Chan movies from that time frame.
Yep.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, you could definitely tell he had well, the 20th Century Fox, of course, you can always tell because it's like with Paramount or Universal,
Hmm.
they have very standard intros and just
Yes.
likenesses because they love to do things that were just natural to them for
Oh,
their
yeah.
shows and stuff. And
Hmm.
I know the thing that got me is when it first started, I was like, "Am I watching Gone with the Wind?" Because
Oh,
that was
that's funny.
exactly what I got. Was like it was the whole thing of the intro, and you had the houses in the background. I'm like, "Good Lord, is that Tara?"
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
Oh, yeah.
I was like, "What in the world?"
Oh, my goodness. And
But yeah, it
so,
was very, very Gone with the Windish to me.
yes, I agree. I agree. Well, and this, Poe lived before Gone with the Wind took place, but
Mm.
yeah, that's a whole nother thing to think about. So we won't go there. I won't digress. Uh,
Yeah.
so we had a pretty big starring cast. The man who played Edgar Allan Poe was John Shepherd. He was also in A Place in the Sun, All the King's Men, and there were some other films he did as well. One of the things that as soon as I saw him, as soon as I heard the voice, I went Twilight Zone. He was in the episode called Nightmare as a Child. And I thought, how fitting for him playing Poe, before
Absolutely.
that happened. Yeah. So, and I think, Jeannie, you said you remembered that episode too.
Yeah, I mean, there's some episodes that you just can't forget when it's Twilight Zone. Now, I'm very good about forgetting the names of them, but there's some things about them that you won't ever, forget because they stick.
Absolutely, yes. And the thing that sticks with me from that episode is the little girl, and her name is Marky. And she's very adamant with the female adult role, the lead in that episode, named Helen. And so
Mhm.
all of that sticks out. We're not going to give any spoilers on that because it's a really great episode if you haven't seen it.
Oh yeah.
And I think the biggest star at the time in this film was the lady who played his wife, Virginia, and that was Linda Darnell. She made several movies back in that time period. Fallen Angel, Blood and Sand were two of her bigger films, doing a lot of noir and things like that. But she was very popular at the time.
Yeah, and I think for me especially, she kind of fit the stereotype that they were going for, because that's the
Yeah.
one thing that kept hitting me with this movie was
Hmm.
all the stereotypical archetypes for
Yes.
the whole storyline. And
Hmm.
it got a little redundant, in my opinion,
Hmm.
because they were definitely hitting upon a lot of the mythos behind Poe's life. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, they went basically from the time he was two in 1811 in Richmond all the way up until his death.
Yeah. And what got me is that some of the stuff I think they put in there they could have done without, because
Hmm.
to me they left out some of the, some of the more grittier parts, especially when it talks about the loves of Edgar Allan Poe.
I thought so too because I wondered who was going to make an appearance. Right off the bat, once the Allens took him in, it was a little bit different than how it really happened in real life, but not too far off. And then once basically they showed him in school, which he would have been in England at the time, not in America, when he had written that
Mm.
poem to Elmira, in elementary school. And I do think that happened later when he came back, to America. But I'd have
Yeah,
to look
that's
that up.
that's kind of what tripped me too,
Yeah,
like when you're talking about it in the classroom scene, because I'm like, I started adding it up how old he would have been
right. Yeah.
at that thing, because when they were talking about what was the last state that just got admitted into the Union, and
Hmm.
it was Maine, and I was like, well, that was 1821.
Right, right.
So, and then I was like, well, wait a minute, that would make Poe about 12. And then I was like, I don't think he was in America at that time.
Well, actually, no, that he would have been. He came back. I'm going to look it up real quick. Keep talking, Jenny.
Yeah.
I'm looking it up.
Well, and I know why they did it, because that was their way of introducing Elmira
Absolutely.
into it, and but it was also, in my opinion, a way for them to introduce the ridicule of Poe,
Yes, absolutely.
and especially not of the, of the kids, because as well as I do, being teachers, kids are kids, but the teacher telling uh John Allen about him, wasting time in class by writing poetry, and
Yeah,
Poe wanting him not to, because, John Allen, they made John Allen out to be abusive, not physically, but yes, at one point they did try to make it that he was abusive towards Poe, not just for disciplinary wise, because he grabbed the yardstick and he was
right.
gonna,
Give him a
crack his knuckles kind
spanking.
of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, give him a spanking, but more along the verbal type, and the disappointment of how he's wasting his time, wasting his life, not pursuing what he needs to
Hmm.
make it in, because they did make it to where John Allen was extremely upset that
Francis.
Francis, thank you,
Yes.
Francis had adopted or brought Poe home, because he was making disparaging remarks about Poe's parents,
Eggs of being
being those folk,
actors. Yes.
those folks.
And she didn't ask permission. She just brought him into the home. Yeah.
Exactly. So he was, and then go ahead.
Oh,
You were
well,
looking up.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I was going to say, and yeah, just to kind of finish that off, because in real life, they had made the decision together to bring him home with them, and
Hmm.
then I did look it up, so I was mistaken. So they left for London in 1815. They came back in 1820. So actually, with what you're saying, with Maine, them talking about Maine being the last state at that point,
Mhm.
1821, he would have been back. So that plays along with, yes, he would have been in an American school at that time.
Yeah. I think they did in some instances when we get farther into the movie, they
Hmm.
did kind of play a little fast and loose with tying what was going on and making it
Yes.
historically accurate.
Yes. Oh,
Um,
absolutely. I felt like there was some time elements, like you said, to kind of condense everything together. And
mhm,
yes, they did leave out some things. And more so, I think they were trying to make it a full biopic from almost birth to death.
mhm,
But if you're going to do that, don't focus on the name being the loves of Edgar Allan Poe unless you're also implying it's not just the love of Elmira and Virginia, but also
right.
Raya Muddy and anybody else,
Francis
Francis. Yeah.
and
And so it's one of those things. It's like, was that their intention, or were they? Because to me, what I kind of anticipated, and I don't know if this is how you felt, Jeannie, I anticipated this being like a love triangle, really like taken out of context, and they didn't really do that, and I was very happy about that.
yeah, me too. I mean, I kind of was going into it not with any kind of pre-notion.
Mhm.
I knew that they were going to talk about definitely the women in his life.
Right,
But at the
right.
same time, I think they turned it into where it was talking much broader than just the women, but everything that he loved, like his
Yeah,
writing, because at one point, I think even Virginia says that his writing was more important than her.
yeah. Hmm.
So that in itself gave a notion of a love that Poe
For the type.
truly,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
So,
The other thing that I really liked that they did not do is made him this brooding fellow, melancholic all the time. They showed him with a sense of humor. They showed him happy and in love and doing what he loved. And so that was a really cool thing. And then the mustache did not come until later. And I loved that because that was accurate.
yeah, they definitely brought it in at the appropriate time. They didn't
Mhm.
make it like the staple of Poe.
Yeah, they didn't put a
I
mustache on him at two.
exactly, which I wouldn't put it past some of them. They
I
would have done
know.
that. Um, but I did like where they they definitely made a point of showing how Elmira's father
Yes.
got to be the way he was toward Poe.
Yes,
And it was
I
all
like that.
about money,
Hmm. And
because
status.
when he's talking to John and John makes a point of saying he's not my heir,
Yes.
he will get nothing from me. And
Mhm.
automatically Elmira's father is like, oh, so yeah, he's no longer a contender. So
Yeah, and that could have actually been pretty accurate. I mean,
yeah, and I mean in
I
that
think it
time frame,
was. Yeah,
absolutely.
it's just you don't ever think about the context of what kind of conversation was had, or was it that Elmira's father just assumed that he was not, officially adopted. And we don't really know that, and so this kind of really brought it to life, that part of it.
And it would make more sense because, especially in that day and age, marriage was a business, and we've discussed this before and other things,
Yeah.
especially when it come to the fathers and their daughters, because they made it more into a business deal than they did of, anything else,
Hmm. Yeah.
because their daughters were commodity. They weren't anything else, just a staple of getting them higher in society,
Right. Right.
which
Exactly.
is, we won't get into that. But anyway,
Oh yeah,
so
but I do like that, as they aged him, all everything was in order of he went to University of Virginia first, and then he went into the Army, then, asked John Allen to help him get into West Point. The one thing that I thought, do we want to give the spoiler away about the president of UVA calling him in? Do we want to give that away or leave that for?
that's what I got upset about,
Yeah, that
because
was
that is not accurate
right. That,
as
I mean, it was
far as,
definitely Hollywood license. Yeah.
yeah, that's what got me the most. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I
Yeah.
mean, yes, Thomas Jefferson was one of the main points of, creating the University of Virginia.
Hmm.
But the man was 83 years old, and
Yeah.
by the time he pulled Poe in for that discussion, he would have been dead. He died July 4th of 1826.
Right. Right.
So, and that was the year that Poe was there.
Yeah. And he also said that he read The Gold Bug. The Gold
Yes,
Bug did not come until after he had been in the army and been stationed at Fort Moultrie.
exactly. So
So
it's like they just combined a lot of
that was
major
way,
inaccuracies. I just, because they had Thomas Jefferson as this spry, man that was talking. And I mean, I appreciate them bringing in and talking about the great oratory, Thomas Jefferson, and how he was, one of the main uh, headpiece or main guys for the University of Virginia, and giving
right.
him accolades and stuff like that. But I'm like, what the heck?
Mm,
Dude, he would not be there. He would not be, he was never the president. He was on the board, but he was
right.
never the president.
Oh yeah. I mean, and I think that they did that to add the oomph in the movie.
Yeah, to add in for like the gold bug and all that other stuff. And then, yeah, I understand why they did it. I just was not happy with the major inaccuracies for the
For that
timeline.
part especially. Yeah.
Yeah, that just bugged me.
Yeah.
Now, there's one thing that we also, and Carmen and I both, we saw it when they were giving Poe his going away party that night, before he was leaving for the University of Virginia,
Hmm.
that his one of his good friends was giving him a toast
Yes.
to send him off to University of Virginia. His friend Ebenezer, they call him Eben.
Yes.
And the moment he spoke, Carmen and I both went, it's Colonel Potter,
Yes, from MASH.
Harry Morgan. And oh,
And he
even
was
as
his
young as he was, he still looked exactly the same and sounded exactly the same.
exactly, yeah. And he didn't have a whole lot of scenes, but there was a card game in Poe's room, and
Yeah,
then he came in a little bit later when there was a ball. This was after Edgar and Virginia were married, and
yeah,
there was a ball scene, and he intercepted some things. So
yeah. So he was in three scenes, but
yeah, but a
he,
young Harry Morgan, and yeah,
yeah.
I was
So
like, oh, this is awesome.
I was like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
But that was nice. And so, but yeah, picking up after the University of Virginia, the only thing that bothered me is after, they spent a lot of time spinning the tale using Jefferson and the gold bug and everything for the University of Virginia. But
Right.
it's like after that, it was like fast forwarded, boom, bang, bing,
Yeah,
to
it
where,
was Army, then quickly
yeah,
West Point, and then
then him coming back home and then getting kicked out because he
right.
refused to work for Allen. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, didn't he actually, was it in between University of Virginia and him joining the army that he worked for him? But at one point, remember, he did work for Allen.
That was, I'm pretty sure that was, don't quote me on this. I think because he went straight from the Army to West Point. And I think
Mhm.
when he was court-martialed out of West Point, I think he did work for a very short time for Allen at that point before just saying, I'm done with him and leaving to go to Baltimore.
Yeah, and see that's what bothered me the most because when he shows up at Muddy's door,
Hmm.
he has his West Point uniform on. And he
Right.
tells Muddy that he just got court-martialed. And I'm like, "Mm, that's a little, because that was a little too fast and not quite
Yeah.
accurate for me." Um, Now I did love when he's standing there knocking on Muddy's door that this cat comes over and starts meowing and rubbing up
Yes.
against him, and I'm like, "Oh, it's a
So
kitty."
I don't think I'm kind of I'm looking this up and I don't think he actually really worked for John Allen. I think it was in talks of, you need to try this out. And I don't think now that I'm thinking about it that he never really did.
Well, the one thing that bothered me about it is because I remember we were reading when we were doing the University of Virginia
Hmm.
episode.
Yeah.
I do remember reading in the research where there was like this moment to where he was working in or just doing handling correspondence at one point for
Hmm.
John.
Yeah.
When John, I think, was trying to convince him to go into business at you know something or start an apprenticeship or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but that's the one thing that kind of bothered me is him showing up at Muddy's in his West Point uniform,
Right.
and I'm going, that's not quite. And then, and I know that Virginia, the actress who plays Virginia, was very popular at the time, but she did not look like a 13-year-old girl.
Oh no. I mean, they did make her look younger, but
Hmm.
not 13, especially even during
No.
that time frame. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they dressed her to where she looked younger, but that's about the only thing they did at that point when they first met to make her look younger.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, they should have made her hair like in pigtails or something just to show the accuracy of the age.
Right. Right.
Because it's like she didn't change from the time they first met until she died.
Yeah. It was a little bit of a change, but it was so minute that you'd almost miss it if you weren't paying attention.
Yeah, it wasn't enough to make a difference, in my opinion, to even fit because it's like, no, that just no.
Yeah.
I didn't particularly appreciate that part of it.
Yeah. They could have really made her look younger. They could have even used an actress, a different actress that was younger for just that first meeting when he does come to Muddy's house. And
Well, and also if you think about it, during the classroom scene
mhm,
where Poe is writing that and you first see Elmira,
yeah,
Elmira's character and Poe's character at that point were 12 years old.
right. exact
So the child that was playing Elmira at that point is the vision of what a 12 or 13-year-old girl would look like.
during that time
So,
frame. Yeah.
yeah. And so then automatically you see Virginia, who is supposed to be 13 when they first meet,
Mm-hmm.
she does not look anywhere near 13.
No.
And I'm just like, that to me, that was the director's fault.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you're just blowing this. Because if you introduce this scene of a 12 and 13-year-old kids, and then all of a sudden you have this girl, and I understand why they did it, because even now, having a relationship, even though Poe would only have been what, in his mid 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, not because he was what, 10 years older than her?
Yes, he was
Was it 10?
27 and she was 13, but they lied about her age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I understand that that would have been, and even now it's like, okay.
Yeah.
But that's the one thing that really started me going, okay, you're all of a sudden you're speeding up the storylines. You're cramming them all in together so you can jump into the Virginia storyline
Yeah.
and the Muddy storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do like how they made Poe the major proponent for copyright law.
Yeah, which he did do that. That was a big thing that he
Mhm.
did, but it was a very strong part of the storyline in the movie.
Yeah, it was. They even brought Dickens in
I know,
as a
which
point to push it home
yeah.
for the copyright laws. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking that is something not a lot of people played up on. And
No,
it makes sense they should have. Uh, because it's like, especially if you have those certain people that want to accuse Poe of stealing other people's works.
right.
It's like,
Exactly.
if they'd done any type of research and known anything, he
Hmm.
was not the type of person to steal other people's work. He was the proponent to protect writers' work.
Right. Exactly.
So I did like how they used that to show the other parts of Poe that not a lot of people know about.
Yeah. That was something that I thought they really did very well with this movie.
Hmm.
And I was like, whoever did the research on Poe's life did a great job. I mean,
Yeah.
they didn't necessarily believe especially in 1942, the Griswold information.
Yep.
It, I,
Yes.
this was, there was a little bit of a focus on the, alcoholism, but, you know, where he was going on binges for a few days and he would disappear. I've never necessarily heard that he would disappear like that.
No.
And so that was definitely,
That was one of the
exaggerated.
mythoses I think that had built up
Right.
over the time,
Mhm.
because remember this was less than 100 years after his death, so
Right. Hmm.
there was still a lot. Unfortunately, they were a lot closer to getting information than we were now,
Yeah.
so to his life.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just, him going off on binges, them not being able to find him not showing up for work.
And Virginia going
Uh,
out looking for him. I mean,
yeah, that
was,
that was, I
yeah.
think, because this is another thing that really bothered me with the director,
Mhm.
is when it started hitting too much of the melodrama.
Yes. Yes.
I'm like, they getting a little just too ridiculous, in my opinion, to
Mhm.
where, and I know part of the reason they did it because they were trying to build up the story for the
Yes.
story's sake.
Hmm.
But it just, yeah, it was. And Muddy, there towards the end, Muddy kind of turned against Poe, not really totally against him, but some of the stuff that she was saying. towards his writing and towards him, and how he was not, he was not helping them, he was not taking care of them,
Hmm.
and all that kind of stuff. And the one thing that they did not bring into play about Muddy was how they were living off of the mother's.
Yeah, her mother.
Remember? Yeah, her
Yes,
mother before they died,
right.
because when Poe showed up in his uniform, the mother was never mentioned.
No, and which would have been Poe's grandmother. And
Exactly.
yeah, and she was living off of the widow's pension from David Poe Sr.
Yeah, the general,
Hmm.
or yeah,
They
colonel,
called him
whatever
the
he was.
general. Yeah.
Yeah, they called him the general.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, wasn't she still alive when Poe showed up?
Yes. Yes, she lived
Yeah,
with them
so
a little
they
bit.
just
Yes.
skipped over that part
In fact, I
for it.
think yeah, I can't remember. I almost want to say that she may have come to live there after Poe was there. I'd have to look that up. I always get that confused.
Hmm.
But there was a little bit of off sequence of when they moved from like Richmond to Philadelphia was pretty, I think, accurate the way they moved. But then when they moved from Philadelphia to New York, the reason why they did that was because of
Was for
Virginia's
Virginia.
illness. And she
Yeah,
wasn't sick at that point. And like
right.
Edgar mentioned something about, she was out in the garden and, you should be resting per the doctors, what the doctors say.
Hmm.
But they had not, like, she wasn't suffering as much as you would have thought she was for them to have, and they didn't imply that the reason they moved in the movie was because of her illness. It was more about his work. And so I thought that was very
Yeah,
interesting. And the other, like earlier, when the three publishers came to visit, and it's like, pick one.
exactly.
That's not how that went down, but the
No.
names were accurate. And so I thought that part was exaggerated, but there was a few nuggets of truth in that.
Yeah, and they definitely disappointed me by not playing on Virginia's sickness. I
Yeah,
mean, they made it, they said, "Oh, you're sick," and all this, but they never actually showed her sick. I mean, she was not acting sick. Let's put it that way.
until
I
right
mean, if
before her death. Yeah.
well, even then, it was like she just laid there.
Yeah.
And someone who was suffering from tuberculosis, they didn't even have her coughing, they didn't
Oh.
have, the blood or anything like that. And that's one of the things I'm like, she doesn't just lay there and looking weak and had a little bit of a tear in one eye. I
Hmm.
mean, that's not sickness. That's just, that's the
Right.
melodrama thing that just really bothered me.
Right. And the one thing that, kind of like you are saying with some of the stuff that they did with the fast forwarding quickly, it was like once she died, it was, he returned back to Baltimore once, and then, he got involved into the cooping thing, and then they found him dead. They found him, they took him to the Washington hospital, and then he died. And I was like, okay, again, the loves of Edgar Allan Poe, why did they not, even if you're not going to bring in between the time of Virginia's death to Poe's death, where, there was a little bit of involvement of Annie Richmond, Sarah Helen Whitman, and then again, Elmira, why didn't they at least bring Elmira back in before he died? I thought that was really
Well,
interesting. I mean, what were your
yeah.
thoughts, Jeannie?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's, you know, Elmira showing up and talking to Virginia on her deathbed, basically,
Hmm.
and wanting to offer help, but
Right.
then her leaving and never seeing Poe again. And then the next thing you know is Poe, Virginia dies, and then Poe goes, to crap, basically.
Yeah.
It just kind of, Yeah. It's like they were hurry. It's like hurry up and end.
Yeah, it was like they had to fit this into the hour and 7 minutes, and it's like, why don't you add 10 or 15 more minutes to the movie and add in him going back to Elmira? Even if you don't
Mhm.
put in other ladies, you've got the actress, go ahead and add her at the end. That's what I thought was very odd.
Yeah, I just that's like you left it open and you didn't finish out the story
Yeah.
because you and I both know that he hooked back up and was actually going to marry
Yes.
Elmira.
First and last fiance. Exactly.
Exactly.
The one
So,
thing I'm very happy that they did not do, Hollywooding it up as I call it, is they did not have him going back to her in Richmond and then getting them back together and living happily ever after. I'm really glad they did not do that because
yeah,
you can see with the time frame and that type of movie, it I could totally see them doing that.
yeah, it just seemed very rushed and very incomplete at the end. And
Yeah, I
to
agree.
me, like, you did a disservice to him. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
but I, in essence, they probably just ran out of time and they just wanted to leave that little nugget open and make it look
Yes.
like where tragedy was all Poe knew at the end of his life, even
Right.
though
Yeah.
to do the whole deathbed thing.
The one thing I really, this was just somebody, people that really know Poe, like that have, studied him, things
Mhm.
like that we have talked about and know about Poe, is that when Virginia died, there were bells sounding from a church, which there
Mhm.
was the church, right by where they lived, which is, most likely why Poe wrote the bells. And
Mhm.
so I thought that was very fitting and just a very slight little homage to the poem The Bells. I really that part
Yeah.
I really liked.
Yeah, there was some aspects of the movie that really paid homage to Poe's works. I did
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
It just, and once again, this was not an adaptation of his works. This was
Right.
the about Poe. So,
Yeah, it was an
thank you.
adaptation about his life, really.
Yes, and they pretty much, other than the few things we've already talked about, they did pretty well. I'll
Yeah.
have to give them that. So
Yeah. And yeah,
it's one to watch, in my opinion. I will have to say it's worth a watch. I will have to admit I did fall asleep through some of it because it got a little too melodramatic for me and
right,
boring, but
right.
it was very short. It was a very short nap, so
Oh, um,
it wasn't like that one. But okay,
oh
we
my
shall not
goodness.
talk about that one.
Oh, I
Uh,
know. Well, what now I will say, I think, and we can, if you want to, I was going to talk about kind of the acting, the scenery, things like that, the setting.
mhm.
We can do that in our ravens and hisses if you want to.
Yeah, let's just do it that way because
Okay.
since this was more along about Poe himself, I think
Mhm.
that's why we don't need to set upon the the adaptation of the work itself. We just need to
Yeah.
concentrate on how accurate to Poe's research or
Yeah.
Poe.
I agree. Do you want me to go first this time? I think you went first last time.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Are we ready?
Yes, do it.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to give five Raven caws
Ooh.
because for the most part, they were very accurate about the story. There's, it, it did go fast forward, and I'll talk about that more in the hisses, but the acting I thought was very well done. They spent money on getting good actors to come into this film. Some of them had already been very popular from other things they had done, and they played the roles very well. The scenery, I think, was very well done as well. Like even and one thing I didn't do is I didn't look up where they filmed. I just really figured they filmed on the, Hollywood movie set.
The
But
20th Century Fox set,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And because like when they showed Poe in his dorm room at UVA, that's what it looks like because I've been there. And so I was like, I wonder if they went there and filmed on, the outside of it. And so that's something that I wish I would have looked up, and I can later. But I felt like, period wise, they did the costumes justice, just everything was beautiful as that golden age of Hollywood always is. Those
Mhm.
that time frame is some of my favorite where my favorite movies come from. Not all of them, but several. And so just I really felt like this the the is it Harry Lockman? Yes. Harry
Yeah, I think
Lockman. I
so.
want to make sure I was saying his name right. The director. He did a very good job overall. Now, with the Black Cat Hisses, I'm going to say two. And reason being the little inaccuracies that they really didn't need to do they didn't need to change it up for Hollywood liberties. They could have just left it as Poe. His life was enough of a dramatic series of events that you didn't really need to do some of the things that they did. And
Right.
so, especially with, they could have given it 10 or 15 more minutes, added in more about the loves of Poe, adding back Elmira, and I think it would have been so much better. And so that's why I'm only giving it two hisses. Now, the one little thing I am going to add that I thought was just absolutely adorable when Francis brought Edgar home and he was two, and John Allen asks him his name. He goes, "I'm Edgar Poe." It was the
Yes.
cutest thing ever. I like that little guy that played him at two.
Yeah. He did a good job, very
Oh
much.
yeah. Yes, his only line. But anyway, so
Mhm.
that's it for me. Five Raven calls and two Black Cat hisses.
Okay. Well, I'm going for 4 Raven
Okay.
calls.
All right.
I will have to say, as I said earlier, it's definitely a watch for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy the casting. I loved, the chemistry, the
Yes.
characterizations, all that. This story did get a little melodramatic,
Mm-hmm.
as I said. Is why it didn't get more than 4. And also, I just I just felt as you did that some of it kind of overshadowed in some ways. I liked how they tried to make it more by introducing the gold bug
Mm-hmm.
and, the Charles Dickens and, entering his copyright advocacy and all that. I did enjoy that very much, but there was just too much of ugh, the wrongness of some of it that just I couldn't overlook.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my Black Cat Hisses, which was 3.
Three. Okay.
And that's I was kind of like 50-50 on this one because
Yeah.
3, you
Yeah.
know, the reason is number one, I did not like the historical inaccuracies, especially about Thomas Jefferson
Mhm.
and then about some other things that we talked about, how he, hadn't written the Gold Bug, or Thomas Jefferson hadn't read the Gold Bug, or things like that. And then them rushing through him being in the military. They never actually said about how he went under Edgar Perry as the in the military
Hmm.
than him being in. I did enjoy how they actually said the reason he got court-martialed is because he refused to go to class.
Yes, which is
So
true.
that, which is
Yes.
true. So, but I felt that the director really kind of screwed the pooch, so to speak, on some
Okay.
of those things, and especially towards the end. It's like the ending was just kind of a mesh of thrown together and just speed up to where
Let's
the
get it
end.
done. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why it got a 3.
Okay. I think that's fair. I think that's
I
fair.
think
I honestly wondered if you would actually give it more hisses because of especially the Jefferson.
now that's why I hit with a 3 because Jefferson was a maid, he did bring the University of Virginia
Hmm.
and all that. And but the thing about him not actually being the president at the time
Right.
of he was on the board and all that. So it just, and him dying that same year that Edgar got, ousted from the University of Virginia, I'm like, no, he was an 83-year-old man and he would not have been talking to Poe.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
why I said I was about 50-50.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, overall, again, I the expectation I had came out very different in watching the film, and I'm
mhm,
really glad we decided to do this one, even though it's not, again, it's not an adaptation of one of his stories or poems, but it is an adaptation of his life. And
mhm,
we can go ahead and tell our viewers and listeners kind of why we decided to do this. Because the next movie that is coming up is
mhm.
going to be kind of in a new, I guess, how would we say it? A new framework or post cycle, if you will.
Yes.
It's like we had the silent era, then we had the golden age of Hollywood, and this one kind of, even though it was, prior to the last one we just did last month, but it kind of finishes off the golden age of Hollywood. And so we're going to be entering the 1960s with Jeannie. Do you want to tell them what's going to be next month coming up?
Oh, I don't know if I'm going to tell him the movie. I might as well just say it's Corman is
Yes.
coming your way.
Yes. So we will be beginning in season 5 Review Morgue with the
Mhm.
Roger Corman films. Dun, dun,
Yes.
dun.
Dun dun dun. Which that's when the era of Vincent Price takes over, and that's why we
Yes.
had to start our season 5 with that.
Yes. So we thought this movie is about Poe and it needed to be reviewed. And I'm really
Yeah.
glad we did. This was a great decision that we we made.
Yeah. It ended the season perfectly, so now we can begin the next era of
Yes.
Poe adaptations.
Exactly. Exactly. And I kind of was explaining it to my husband yesterday, with kind of how looking at when the Poe adaptations have been filmed, and you really can see different nuances with each era of all of the adaptations, like how they've been done, with either
Yep.
modern technology, horror, more gore added in, more psychology, psychological, terror, horror, whatever you want to say. And so it's very interesting to really dive into these films.
Yep. And I mean, and Vincent Price. I mean, come on.
Oh,
Vincent
I
Price.
know. I'm so excited. I'm so excited about season 5.
Yes, me too. We hope everybody is too. So join us with
Yes.
season 5 and
And
the Roger Corman era.
yes, Price, Poe, and Corman.
Exactly. And until next season.
Yes,
We
we
are
are
Poe
Poe
out.
out.